Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Currently, we are in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 28. Again, there's going to be, to me, at least to me, it's some amazing mindset that's revealed. In spite of, one, the true prophet's word coming to pass, Israel doesn't humble himself. And the cognitive dissonance that they go through, this kind of denying reality in face of the reality that's before them, destruction. So let's get into it because this is, again, kind of amazing. Now, keep this in mind, too, that what we're getting ready to read is Nebuchadnezzar, remember, it's marching. he is already he's already begun his invasion. So Jeremiah 28, verse 1 says, in that same year, at the beginning of the reign of King Zedekiah of Judah. So remember, this is not, we're dealing with a very short period of time, 10, at the most 15 years. So again, so when we look at this, you start right after the reign of Josiah. There is there's not a lot of time between Josiah and the fall of Jerusalem. But then the last three kings, which were the very wicked kings, Jehoiakim, Jehoiachim, and Zedekiah. Zedekiah is the last king of Israel. He's a wicked king, and his wickedness is going to be seen. And again, it's just amazing the mindset that when because remember there was the time that Zedekiah, he secretly, he goes to Jeremiah and asks him, what should I do? What should I do? And Jeremiah tells them, look, just surrender. Now we just read in the last two chapters, God is constantly telling them, look, if you surrender, it will go well. Now, that's a relative term because, being put under the yoke. Think about, I go rob a bank, okay, and I'm surrounded. So now what are my choices? The police says, in typical police form, the place is surrounded. Come out with your hands up, right? Well, so at this point, I can say I can go out in the blaze of gunfire, which would happen, or I can surrender. And if I surrender, maybe because let's say if some people died or something happened, maybe I won't get the death penalty. In other words, my point is my circumstances is relative to this happened. In other words, you could say you were warned, don't do that. Don't go rob the bank. Okay, we're past that now. You robbed the bank. Now you're in this reality. And I think so many times we don't want to deal with reality. Think about this. Like now, from hypothetically speaking, hypothetically, we are in a mindset right now of freedom. And we can probably in our mindset never think about surrendering. Or sometimes we think about some of the horrendous conditions. You think about the migrants that are coming to our country by the tens of thousands. But you kind of have to look at where they are fleeing from. We don't have that mindset because we're not there. You think about January 6th, the mindset that people had over January 6th, that's nothing compared to what some of these migrants are fleeing from, the terror, the tyranny that they're fleeing from. So, however, if God was to so decree, let's say some other nation, Russia or something, and who knows, if God was to decree that, he might go, I'm not going to even let Russia do it. I'm going to really humble America, and I'll let a weaker nation. And by the way, just think about this, guys. Just think about this. 9/11, the mastermind of 9/11 wasn't grenades and gunfire and bombs, box cutters. That's how God humbled us. Box cutters. There's a whole lot of other stuff of why that happens. So my point is that there's a mentality sometimes that we don't face. Let's go to verse 28. Verse 1 says, "Now in the same year, the beginning of the reign of King Zedekiah of Judah, in the 5th month of the 4th year, the prophet Hananiah, son of Azar from Gibeon, said to me in the temple of the Lord, in the presence of the priest and all the people." Now Hananiah was not a true prophet, as we will see. But notice he's not going to prophesy to the true prophet. Verse 2, "This is what the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, says. I have broken the king of Babylon. Within 2 years, I will restore this place, all the articles of the Lord's temple that King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon took from here and transported to Babylon. And I will restore to this place Jeconiah, son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and all the exiles from Judah who went to Babylon. This is the Lord's declaration, for I will break the yoke of the king of Babylon." Now, again, the reality here is always amazing to me. So first of all, remember, he's prophesying in something where a prophecy has already come to pass. What Jeremiah has prophesied has already come to pass. What the other prophets have prophesied had already come to pass. And now he's saying, here's a totally different prophecy. Moving the goalposts. And now he's saying that God is going to restore. He's going to bring back those articles. He's going to bring back the son of Josiah to their rightful place. So he's prophesying out of his own head. He's prophesying, Now, watch this. How do we know the difference? How do we know the difference between this prophet and Jeremiah? This is a good object lesson here, right? How do we know the difference? So let's take a look at this, because I think this is a good point, object lesson here. I want to go to first Numbers, and I think this is very good. Let's go to Numbers chapter 12. Numbers chapter 12. I use this as a guide, okay? So verse 6 says, and this is the story when Miriam and Aaron rebelled against Moses. And what they said was, in verse number 2, they said, "Does the Lord speak only through Moses? Does he not also speak through us?" Right? So we have the same circumstances now with Jeremiah and Hananiah. Which one is the true prophet? Well, first and foremost, verse 6. Now, it says, the Lord heard it, verse 2 again. Look at the last phrase, and the Lord heard it. So then the Lord calls them. He calls them. And this is what he said in verse 6. He said, "Listen to what I say. If there is a prophet among you from the Lord, I make myself known to him in a vision. I speak with him in a dream." Now, I just want to stop there. Notice what he says. So this is what God first will do. I'm going to make myself known to that prophet. What will happen as a result of that? That prophet will know beyond a shadow of a doubt when God is telling him to speak. He will know beyond a shadow of a doubt the word of the Lord. Because God says, I will make myself known to this prophet. There will be no mistake. There will be no false prophecies. And what this prophet says will always come to pass. Now, secondly, what happens is that then God validates this prophet. God will validate his true prophets. So we see this with Samuel, for example. Everyone came to know that he was a true prophet. How did God validate Moses in front of the people? Remember, Miriam asked the question, does God only speak through Moses? Does not God speak through us? Now, to answer Miriam's question, because it was the motive behind what she was saying, she did prophesy. When they came out of Egypt, remember, she did prophesy. But where she got in trouble was that, hey, wait a minute now, we're just like Moses. Now you kind of stepped over, you usurped the authority here. Now, in this very verse, God validates Moses. Look at the next verse. Not so, verse 7, not so with my servant Moses. He is faithful in all of my household. I speak with him directly, openly, not in riddles. He sees the form of the Lord. So right here, God validates Moses. Now, the continuity of this, you go through all the prophets. God validates that prophet. So when you see this here, Hananiah saying, the Lord spoke to me. The Lord spoke to me. So when you see this, how do you know, right? Because they both were well-known men, right? So how do we know? I'm going to tell you in a moment. Let me go to one more verse, though. Let's go to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 18. Deuteronomy 18 has a lot to say about prophets, false prophets. All right, let's go scroll down here. Oh, I'm in 18 now, aren't I? Oh, I'm in the wrong chapter, that's why. All right. So, now here is a prophet. Now I'm going to read this because I think this is important right here, because we have people today saying they're prophets. Okay. Look at verse 15. The Lord your God will raise up a prophet. The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among your own brothers. You must listen to him. Okay? You must listen to him. So every true prophet, notice this, and in particularly the prophet that Moses is referring to, which ultimately was Jesus. Notice that you must listen to him. Verse 16, this is what you requested from the Lord your God at Hebrew on the day of the assembly, when you said, let us not continue to hear the voice of the Lord our God and to see this great fire any longer, so that we will not die. Then the Lord said to me, they have spoken well, and I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their brethren. I will put my words in his mouth, and he will tell them everything I have commanded him. So notice again, God's prophets, this is what God will do to the prophet himself. Verse 19, I will hold accountable whoever does not listen to my words that he speaks in my name. Verse 16, but the prophet who dares to speak a message in my name that I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet must not die. Now, thank God we're not under the Old Testament. Verse 21, You may say to yourself, how can we recognize a message the Lord has not spoken? Verse 22, when a prophet speaks in the name and that message does not come true or is not fulfilled, that is the message that the Lord has not spoken. That prophet has spoke presumptuously. Do not be afraid of him. So now if we kind of go back to this circumstances here, okay, with Hananiah, okay. So you have Jeremiah and then you have Hananiah. Now Hananiah was a popular person, right? He was recognized among the people, but was he a true prophet of the Lord? Now Jeremiah, on the other hand, was validated to be a true prophet of the Lord. But now, just even go, let's go a step further now. How still would we know? First and foremost, right here in front of their eyes, they have a test that they could apply. They have a test. First, you have Jeremiah, who we know is established as a true prophet of the Lord. Now, the general public probably didn't know this, but even Zedekiah, King Zedekiah, who secretly came to Jeremiah, he didn't go to his false prophets. He didn't go to Hananiah and ask, hey, Nebuchadnezzar is closing in. What shall we do? So my question is, why didn't you go to Hananiah? Well, watch this. Look at what Hananiah is prophesying. But he's prophesying after the fact, right? After the fact. Jeremiah had been prophesying for the last 23 years. His predecessor, Isaiah, had been prophesying. Isaiah's contemporaries have been prophesying. So up until this point, they have true prophets of the Lord prophesying. And guess what? Their prophecies have come to pass. Hananiah is trying to reverse what God has already established. He's speaking a false prophet in the name of the Lord. Now get this, he's speaking a false prophecy in the name of the Lord of something that's already come to pass. So why should we believe Hananiah when what Jeremiah has already said has come to pass? Nothing that Hananiah said has ever come to pass. So why should we trust him? Why should we believe him? Right? Why should I believe what he says when what God has already spoken has already come to pass? Notice that. He says he's going to bring back. Now get this now. He's going to bring back, you had verse 2. This is what the Lord says. This is what the Lord of hosts says of Israel. I have broken the yoke of the king of Babylon. Remember God had said, no. Through Nebuchadnezzar, the yoke is set. Nebuchadnezzar is that yoke. Surrender. Put your neck under the yoke of Nebuchadnezzar. The true prophet that spoke this. Now he's saying, I'm going to break that yoke. But what God has already said about this yoke has already come to pass. It's already come to pass. So he says right here, within 2 years, I will restore to this place all the articles of the kingdom. No, there is no reason, there is no reason to trust what Hananiah said. No reason to trust what Hananiah said. All right, guys, we'll pick this up in the next study. But again, we have prophets today, or people who are pretending to be prophets today, prophesying in the name of the Lord. Nothing as critical and serious as what Jerusalem faced, but they do mislead people. They do. One of the I remember back in when and we kind of forget about it now, but Y2K. There were people who were saying that lights were going to be out, and people did things based upon what certain people said. Sold their houses, sold their business, divested their investments, which they were quite upset over. All right, guys, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome, and I'll see you in the next study.